I really do not know what's happened to Bob this morning. I just taken him out to put him outside, even though it's very hot, so I was going to put him in the garden where he's got some shade. And he's standing with his head bent. He doesn't seem to know where he is, he doesn't seem to know what he's doing. He keeps flapping his wings. And I'm suspicious that he's had a mini stroke. He was perfectly fine yesterday. No problem yesterday. He was fine last night when I brought him in. He went straight to, up the alleyway to go to his cage. Put him in, he had something to eat, had something to drink, he laid down, he was talking away to me and doing his normal. No problem, said goodnight to him last night and he, wickered a little bit at me. This morning when I came down he wasn't exactly very vocal. He wasn't making his usual noises when he heard the others. Although he's making a little noise now. But very mild. He found it difficult to stand up when I went to pick him up. And I noticed his neck his head was bent. So I thought, what on earth? Put him on the floor. As he immediately flapped his wings. And I thought he was going to have another convulsion, but he didn't. I offered him something to drink, didn't want to know. Offered him something to eat, didn't want to know. And there we are. That's how he is now. So I really do not know what to do. Absolutely disastrous. I can't lose him now after all we've been through, eh, Bob? You've done so well. But I'll finish doing what I need to do outside with the others and change them around and put Hoppy and Loppy back, put the others out and see. Oh dear, what on earth was that? Put him in the garden, stay with him and see what he does. And yeah, I honestly don't know. Heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. Well, poor Bob's getting worse. He's refusing to eat, even his yoghurt concoction. He just beaks at it, but he doesn't eat it, and then he throws his head to the side again. I've just given him some milk and water to try and hydrate him a little bit and maybe wash whatever it is out, if it's something to do with the build-up of toxins in his gut again or something like that, or his crop feels perfectly fine but completely empty. But so he did eat last night, but he's just had another fit. He went to walk forward and then out went the wings and he did the stomping and went straight into the door. Fortunately I stopped him headbutting the door, but he went straight for the door, didn't know where he was, what he was doing, vocalised, which was upsetting, and then shook all over and collapsed. Even though I had hold of him, he just collapsed. So I honestly don't know what's happened to him, why. The sides of his face are really hot again, in between his wattles are really hot again, but his comb is cold. So I can only assume it's a circulation problem and probably a stroke he's had during the night. A mild one, and it looks like it's going to kill him. Especially if he won't eat. So I honestly don't know what to do. Breaking my heart. I don't know what to do. I've just given him some raw sterilised egg yolk with some vitamin D3, vitamin E, and a tiny pinch of ginkgo biloba to try and improve the circulation and give him at least those vitamins. And he had a couple of sort of beaks at it but didn't really drink it, and then realised what it was and took a massive mouthful and then went rigid and looked as if he was going to convulse, so I just held him and he didn't. But he has just had about half a teaspoonful of brown bread soaked with milk and a couple of high protein chip crumbs with all the mash, and he's had, I suppose, about half a teaspoonful of that. But one thing I did notice he was doing yesterday, he was doing his beak grinding. Well, he wasn't actually grinding it, he was sort of all the time. And of course the mistake I made yesterday, I didn't offer him his corn sort of 3 or 4 times a day like I generally do. I had just put the corn out under the shade for him, as I do anyway, so he can feed himself if and when he feels like it. I offered him water about a dozen times and he drank, so there was no problem with dehydration. He didn't go under the shade very often. He was under the shade of the 2 wildflower, quite big plants out there by the turkey shed, because that's where the turkeys were hanging around under their shade, so he was there too. And also the day before, Hoppy decided to attack him through the fence and grab his wattles, and I only really just realised what damage the little bugger did. He's taken a chunk out of him there, well, not a chunk, he bled there, but the worst is this bit here. He's got a cut there, which I didn't actually notice because it sort of folded in like that, but he's got a lump below again there, and I'm wondering if that's something to do with it, you know, again, the bruising and the compromised circulation of blood through his wattles and comb, cooling him down. Maybe it's something to do with the heat yesterday as well. And as I was saying, I didn't actually give him his corn. You know, I take his bowl over to him and I take his water to him. I don't leave the water out there because he just knock it over. So I take water to him, I say about a dozen times a day, offer him that in his dish. And I sometimes take the corn as well. If I notice he hasn't been eating, I'll take the corn over and he'll have a couple of bits of corn every time he has a drink. So that's what keeps him going. But his crop was full last night, so he certainly had fed himself, and a couple of times I saw him helping himself in his dish, so I didn't think there was a need to offer him corn. But I feel very guilty about that I didn't do, as I've been doing for I don't know how many weeks. But so I did notice him eating himself, so there didn't seem to be a problem there. But I'm wondering if it is just a circulatory thing, and because of the circulation problem, of course, any nutrients he takes in, unless it's, you know, he's bombarded with trace elements, minerals, vitamins, nutrients, what have you, his body finds it difficult to actually absorb it all correctly and utilise it where it needs to be utilised, because he hasn't had his concoction for must be nearly 3 weeks, if not a bit more, with all his bits and pieces in it. So I'm wondering if, and then getting wounded by Hoppy, I don't know how he managed to get him through the fence, I really don't. He must have gone up to say hello and Hoppy just grabbed him, and when Hoppy gets hold of you, he really takes a hold, so that wouldn't have done him any good at all, and of course would have again compromised his circulation through his wattles and not his comb, but you know, it was all sort of connected, so you know, so compromised his circulation there, which if it is a circulatory sort of nerve thing, it's going to have a profound effect on him, 100 times more than it would do any other chicken. I'm saying with Rhode Island continuously jumping on his back, well, not continuously, but every now and again jumping on his back and plucking the feathers out of his back. In fact, yesterday I went to put diatomaceous earth on him, just in case, just to cover him, just to ensure that he wasn't compromised by even one louse. And he had a fit, he ran. He as if I was going to try and murder him. That's the first time he's ever done that, so that wasn't good. But then again, old Whitey was out there, and perhaps Whitey was talking nasty to him, and Whitey's, you know, white with a red top. The diatomaceous earth puffer I made is white with a red top, so perhaps it was association, and he thought, oh my God, Whitey's coming for me. So I can only assume that was why. But this with his head to the side like that is really disconcerting. But I'll carry on little and often with the egg and the vitamins in it and the brown bread. That's got milk as well in it. I say it's full of chemicals, the milk, but at least it's some form of sustenance for him rather than water, and I'll just see how he goes during the day. He'll either improve, stay the same, or get worse. As I was a bit more hopeful once I got his head straight and sort of agitated him a bit and animated him. He did realise the food was there, and he did have about half a teaspoonful, so half a teaspoonful's worth. So he's not totally a lost cause yet. He's not out of the woods by any means, but he's not a lost cause just yet. He will eat if he's animated enough, otherwise he seems to be in a state of unconsciousness. But there we are. Well, I think poor old Bob's going to die. I've managed to get some corn down him. I just put it to the side of his beak, and he opened his beak and I just popped it in, and well, he took it out of my fingers, but he can't feed himself. He's had all his egg and egg yolk and vitamins, but he's in dire straits. He can stand up but only go backwards, then falls down. When he lays down he cries out. As you can see, he's completely flat with his head. He seems to be drifting in and out of consciousness. He's got the smell about him again, which he certainly didn't have yesterday, but I did notice yesterday. Not only was he grinding his beak or chattering with his beak, but every time he ate something or drank something, his crop would make a funny sort of gurgly noise, not a normal going down noise, just a sort of weird noise. And his innards were making the same popping sound that they were making when all this started. And it sounded like his gizzard was hollow and somebody was pinging it, like a hollow balloon, not a hollow balloon, a blown up balloon noise if you ping it or knock it on something, that sort of sound. And the rest of his innards were making a weird noise, but I say he's got the smell about him again, so I don't hold out any hope for him at all now. And I will just sit with him all night and see what happens. But there you go.